Welcome back to the Dragon Den, my loyal Dragonites. King of Dragons 5000 is back with another action figure review. Today we'll be taking a look at the Bandai SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Mecha Frieza. And so here we have Frieza pose and out of the packaging, all in his brand new mechanized body. But before we have a look at his details, let's run through his accessories. Frieza does come with 4 very impressive head sculpts, as well as several sets of hands for various style posing. And finally, we do get alternate parts to have Frieza cut in half by Trunks. With his accessories out of the way, let's have a closer look at Mecha Frieza. Taking a closer look at Mecha Frieza, Bandai has done a really good job capturing the image of Mecha Frieza and bringing him into the SH Figuarts line. He looks very impressive with some really good detailing here, which we will go over right now. Taking a look at Frieza's head, it looks very impressive and pretty accurate to what we saw in the anime and the manga. As you can see, a good 3/4 of his head is replaced with these mechanized parts, and all of it looks really good here. The silver applications on his head do have this really impressive line work and sculpt detail. Then we do have 4 green orbs on the right side of his head. There does appear to be an armor pad at the upper left part of his head. And the face is done very nicely, and the paint applications on his eyes are done perfectly. And above his left brow, you can see he does have a scar. Moving on to Frieza's torso, they did a really good job adding these really nice sculpted details to the mechanized parts of his body. On the right side of his body, you can see it is mainly mechanical armor bits with those green orbs, which look really good. And you can see the left side of his body is mostly organic, which does look nice, and there is a scar on his left pec. Turning the figure around, you can see some added mechanized parts going from his shoulder blade onto his left shoulder. The entirety of Frieza's left arm has been replaced with mechanized parts, and it looks really good with the armor bits on his shoulder and bicep. The black parts also have some really nice detail, and I especially love the paintwork that went into the silver parts. And once again, we do have some really impressive line work sculpted on the silver parts of his arm. Frieza's right arm does appear to be organic, and Bandai did update the sculpt on Frieza's arm. His shoulder looks more uniform and looks much better than those older figures, and I really love the shade that he has used on his skin. Interesting thing to note is that the bio armor on his right forearm does have some line work which wasn't present on the original Frieza mold. And of course, the entirety of Frieza's lower body has been replaced with the mechanized parts, and Bandai did a really good job here. The silver part is done really nicely, and you can see some added sculpted detail with some rivets which look good, and the black part is also done very nicely. And his crotch does carry over that armor piece, which is done really good. His legs are symmetrical, and they look really good here in this really awesome silver. The armor pads on the front of his legs are painted and sculpted beautifully, and we get some more added detail here on the silver parts of his shins. More rivets and panel line do a really good job bringing out a lot of details on Mecha Frieza's legs. And finally, taking a look at his feet, they are done really well with his toes segmented and sculpted really nicely. The last part we'll be taking a look at is his tail, which has some impressive sculpt work to it. The line work on his tail is actually done really well, and it is unfortunately pre-posed in this almost S shape. One helpful thing to note is that the end of his tail is done in a softer plastic, so you don't have to run the risk of breaking it. So overall, Bandai has done a really good job sculpting all the really nice details here on Mecha Frieza. With his details out of the way, let's compare Frieza to our usual suspects. Here we have Mecha Frieza posed next to Marvel Legends Cyclops and DC Multiverse Superman, Mattel's WWE Elite Series and Mezco's 1/12 Collective Popeye the Sailor Man, the Lightning Collection White Ranger and the Star Wars Black Series Mandalorian. And finally, we do have Mecha Frieza posed next to 4th Form Frieza. So as you can see, Frieza is going to scale nicely to the rest of your SH Figuarts line, as he is a much shorter character. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's move on to Mecha Frieza's articulation. Mecha Frieza has a ball hinge here in the head, ball jointed butterfly joint, and ball socketed shoulder. Arms go out to the side and do a full 360. Swivel at the bicep and double hinged elbows. He has ball hinges in the wrists. Mecha Frieza has a double ball joint in his upper torso and a double ball joint in his lower torso. Legs are on ball hinges which kick forward, go back, out to the side, and have a thigh swivel. He has a double bend in the knee. Mecha Frieza has a ball hinge in the ankles. Finally, he has a ball hinge at the base of his tail and a ball hinge in the middle part of his tail. So overall, some impressive articulation here on Mecha Frieza. And as you would expect, the articulation works perfectly and I don't have any issues here. So with everything said and done about Mecha Frieza, let's get him posed for my final thoughts. The SH Figuarts Mecha Frieza is done very well, and Bandai has outdone themselves on this figure. The sculpt work here on Frieza is very solid, and everything that you expect on this figure is there. As far as his sculpt and details go, there really isn't any issues that I can really see here. A minor nitpick might be the size of his head, as Frieza's head really wasn't this big when Toriyama originally drew the character. But it's still done very nicely, and I am happy with what Bandai did here. Although not a perfect figure, I do have some gripes with Mecha Frieza. For starters, his tail is actually on an angled ball hinge, which is kinda strange because you can't really get it straight. Another gripe that I have with Mecha Frieza is that there are some parts on his head that you do have to swap out when you swap out his heads. Though it's not a big deal, it just seems like it's more moving parts than what Bandai actually needed to put in this figure. My minor nitpicks aside, Mecha Frieza is gonna look great in your Dragon Ball collection, especially when you have him posed next to Trunks. I kinda feel like I should have picked up a second Frieza so I could display Mecha Frieza in his full form and one pose where Trunks is slicing him in half. The one major drawback to this figure is that Mecha Frieza was a premium Bandai figure, and if you missed out on his pre-orders, secondhand market is the only way to pick him up at this point. But if you're a fan of Mecha Frieza and you need him in your collection, I highly recommend you track one down and add him into your Dragon Ball shelf. So with that being said, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, and check out all my other Dragon Ball videos. If you're in a position to help out the Dragon Den, check out my Patreon where I have some exclusive content and early access videos. Check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos, videos, recent pickups, latest prints, and as always, ring that bell so you never miss another video. And until next time, my loyal Dragonites coming from the Dragon Den, I'm KingofDragons 5000 reminding you to redesign, rebuild, and reclaim. I'll see you next time.